Hi, it's Daniel from Theology is for Everyone with more insights in Matthew. In chapters 12 and 13, Matthew presents a major turning point in Jesus' ministry. And chapter 12 in particular is especially busy. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. So let's hit some of the highlights. The chapter begins with Jesus doing a couple of things on the Sabbath day, which really got under the skin of the religious leaders. First, his disciples were picking grains or heads of grain from a field and eating them on a Sabbath day, which the Jewish leaders considered work and breaking the fourth commandment. Secondly, Jesus healed a man on the Sabbath day, which apparently he did frequently. And again, it wasn't against the law, but it was against the traditions that they had built around the law. And it really bugged them that Jesus did not honor their traditions. In fact, he'll mention that in chapter 15. Well, speaking of the entire law system and the sacrificial system and the whole thing, Jesus in chapter 12 claimed superiority over four things. Two of them are right here at the beginning. In verse 6, he said, "I tell you that something greater than the temple is here." He claimed to be greater than the temple, which would include all of the sacrifices, the priests, the feast days, everything that went along with that. Jesus said, "I'm greater than." And then in verse 8, he also said, "The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." So not only is he greater than, or he claims superiority over the temple and the entire temple and sacrificial and Levitical priest system, he said, I claim superiority over the entire Sabbath day as well. And he said, listen, God intended the Sabbath to be a time of rest for people. He did not create people to serve the Sabbath. He created the Sabbath to serve people. Well, that did not make them happy, and he ended up quoting from Isaiah who he really is, the Spirit of God, or the servant of God, rather, with the Holy Spirit on him. It's a messianic passage for those who say that Jesus never claimed to be Messiah or never claimed to be God. It's just not true. It's right here in many, many places, and this is just one of them. Then some people brought a demon-possessed person to him, and he cast the demon out and healed the man. And the people started to wonder, could he really be the Messiah? Could he really be the Son of David? Which scared the religious leaders, because they did not want people to follow him. And so they, and they've said this before, but they really started making a big deal about the fact that, no, he's casting out demons by the power of Beelzebub, the Lord of the demons, the Lord of the flies himself. And so Jesus got into a conversation with them. This is where we find the unpardonable sin. And the short version is the unpardonable sin is attributing Jesus' works to the devil instead of the Holy Spirit. Which means, by the way, since Jesus isn't running around here doing miracles anymore, we cannot commit this unpardonable sin. So you don't have to worry about that. And you can contact me if you want more information about that. But he said that, you people are constantly asking for signs and miracles, and I'm done. I said this was a major turning point in Jesus' ministry. He said, I'm done. I'm not giving you any more. In fact, you get one more sign, and that is the sign of the prophet Jonah. And the sign of the prophet Jonah was being buried in the earth, or in Jonah's case, being buried in the sea in a fish, right? 3 days and nights on the Jewish calendar, which can include any part of a day and night. This is one of the only places where the New Testament says 3 days and nights. In almost every other case, it says on the third day that Jesus would rise again, which he did, of course. He said, that's the only other sign. I'm done. I'm not doing mass miracles for you people anymore. Things are changing from here on out. And he begins to use this phrase, an evil and adulterous generation. And this concept of a generation is going to become more prominent as we move through the rest of Matthew, the phrase, this generation in particular. Well, he's already claimed superiority over the temple and the entire system. He's claimed superiority over the Sabbath. Now he says, in the judgment day, and we saw this in chapter 11 as well, there are going to be some pagans that rise up and stand against you on judgment day, and it's going to be better for them. He references the queen of the south who came to listen to Solomon and got the wisdom of Solomon, wisdom from Solomon, the Queen of Sheba. And with these historical references, which, by the way, Jesus took these historical references literally. Jonah and the fish, literal, according to Jesus. King Solomon, literal king, according to Jesus. The Queen of Sheba, a literal person, queen, according to Jesus. And he said, I am greater than Jonah. Something greater than Jonah is here, which references greater than the prophets. And he said something greater, or someone greater than Solomon is here, referencing the kings. So now Jesus has said, listen, I'm greater than the sacrificial system, the whole temple and system. I'm greater than the Sabbath, which is going to be basically one of the key aspects of the law. I'm greater than the prophets, using Jonah as the reference, and I'm greater than the kings, using Solomon as the reference. In chapter 12, he claims superiority over everything in the Jewish system, and they didn't miss that. They knew exactly what he was saying. In verses 43 and 40 through 45, he tells this little analogy or parable, if you want, of the unclean spirit. He said when a demon or an unclean spirit is cast out of a person or leaves a person and comes back and finds it clean, he doesn't just come back and try to get in by himself. He comes back with a whole bunch of others, and it's worse off for the person than before. Now, a lot of people try to read into this and make all sorts of weird comparisons or analogies or whatever. But basically what Jesus was just using this as an illustration. He said, listen, I came in to you, to your generation, and I was cleaning out demons, I was cleaning out sickness, I was cleaning out everything. But it's not going to be that way because you are rejecting me. And we're seeing the rejection of Jesus really starting to take place here. He said, you're rejecting me, and when I go away, and he didn't say exactly how or why he's going away yet, but when I go away, it is going to be worse for you than before, because the evil spirits, or really in this case, the entire demonic realm, under Satan's leadership, is going to look at Israel and come back with vengeance, come back with a full force. And this generation that Jesus was speaking to is going to have the kingdom and the promises and everything taken away from them. And in AD 70, just about 40 years later, it did happen. The temple was destroyed, Jerusalem was destroyed, and there wasn't a sovereign state of Israel until 1948. And that was the literal fulfillment of this prophecy. Finally, the chapter ends with Jesus' family trying to basically shut him down. Some of the other gospels say that they even thought he was crazy and really needed to get out of the spotlight. And Jesus said, I'm done with this. You want to be a part of my family? You need to obey me, do what I say. Those are the people who do the will of the Father, are really my true family. And of course, looking back, we can see that the will of the Father is to believe in Jesus for salvation, and that's how we are adopted into the family of God. I hope this has been beneficial to you. We'll see you next time in chapter 13.